Hello, and welcome to my cell communication project. What is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease? Before we begin, you'll need some background information. Meet the brain. The brain is extremely important. It regulates everything, including functions you don't even have to think about, like breathing and heart rate. It is also responsible for emotions and memories. It controls everything. And along with the spinal cord, it makes up the CNS, or central nervous system, which is responsible for movement, homeostasis, and sending out signals and messages. Well, how does the brain receive and send signals or information? They use neurons. The tasks of neurons are carried out mostly by proteins. Well, what is a protein? Proteins are complex molecules made up of long amino acid chains, which are linked by peptide bonds. They're also highly folded, almost like origami. This is going to be important for later. Well, you might be asking, how does this all relate to Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease? Well, let's dive in. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, also known as CJD, is a type of neurodegenerative brain disease which causes the degradation of neurons. Some examples you might have heard of are Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. CJD is classified as a transmissible spongiform encephalopathy, which are a group of rare neurodegenerative brain diseases. You might notice spongy. The term spongy refers to the sponge-like holes that these diseases cause within the brain. CJD is also a type of prion disease. Now, you might be thinking, how do prions relate to CJD? Well, let me introduce you to PRPC and PRPSC. PRPC are normal, healthy proteins. They're completely folded correctly and they're perfect. And PRPSC are misfolded infectious proteins, also known as prions. These proteins are glycoproteins, meaning they're attached to carbohydrates. They can be found on the surface of cells and mostly in the nervous system. Prion stands for proteinaceous infectious particle. Now pay attention to the infectious part. One prion in a sea of correctly folded proteins causes all the other proteins around it to misfold. Even new proteins made will also be misfolded. Remember what we talked about earlier. Prions are found within the nervous system/brain. They clump together within the brain, which leads to the destruction of nerve cells/neurons. Nerve cell loss causes brain damage, which appears as spongy holes within the brain. Here is imaging of the brain at various stages of CJD. As you can see, the brain has holes. The black spots are the holes within the brain. Why is the brain so important? Recall what we talked about at the beginning of the video. The brain controls everything and regulates everything. It is responsible for your senses, your emotions, your memories, sending and receiving information, processing the information, your heart rate, your breathing, and much more. Now let's get into the symptoms of CJD. Here they are listed as the disease progresses, from the early stages to the late stages. Memory loss/dementia, disorientation, personality changes, vision issues, hallucinations, movement issues, balance problems, seizures, paralysis, and muscle atrophy. These symptoms correspond with the functions of the brain. CJD is 100% fatal, and about 70% of people who get it will die within 1 year. There is no cure and no way to slow progression. There are 4 types of CJD/ways to get it. The first is sporadic, making up about 85% of cases. And this basically means they just don't know why the prion got there in the first place. It's unknown. The second type is genetic due to the inheritance of an abnormal gene from one or both parents. The third is acquired, which may be acquired after a medical procedure like a tissue transplant, organ transplant, contaminated surgical materials from someone with CJD or the abnormal prion. And the last type is variant CJD, which can occur from ingesting beef from a cow who had prions, which is known as mad cow disease. Now you might be nervous thinking, could I have CJD? But don't worry, it's really rare. Only about 1 in 1 million people are diagnosed with CJD each year. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new.